I'm delighted to say that we have with us today Surekha Somaroo, who is going to be interviewed. And I always really enjoy these interviews, and I've just met her now virtually for the first time. But it's going to be lovely to talk to her for about half an hour about who she is as a professional. Surekha, welcome, and I'm really looking forward to this interview.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to finally meet you and talk to you and share with you and
Okay,
learn.
wonderful. Okay, excellent. All right. So, maybe just give us a little bit of a background, your origins, and then, where did you qualify, and what profession are you in? We see you in your rooms. Give us a bit of an orientation as to who you are as a professional.
Okay. I'm a physiotherapist, and I'm qualified for 25 years, of which 12 years have been medical legal experience. I qualified at the University of KZN, then known as University of Durban-Westville.
Okay.
And I didn't want to really be a physiotherapist. I wanted to be a doctor, but things didn't work out. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, to be specific, but that didn't work out. And so I went into a BSc, a year of BSc, to decide what I wanted to actually get into. And on campus, I was exposed to various health professions and decided that physiotherapy was definitely up the alley. If I couldn't be an orthopedic surgeon, at least I could be involved in some sort of orthopedics and rehab, different side of it, not doing the surgery as such, but actually dealing with orthopedic patients and, pain, dysfunction, that kind of thing. So I went into physiotherapy, and I loved the anatomy and physiology, absolutely loved it. I remember being in our training, going on ward rounds with the doctors and medical students, and I would be hand up with all the questions, answering all the anatomy and physiology questions, and they would be like, "Who is this?" And I'm like, "Physiotherapy. I'm Surekha. I'm the physiotherapy student." And they were, like, "Gosh, And then they actually told me, "Why don't you just leave physio and be, follow your dream and be a doctor?" And I'm like, "No, circumstances didn't allow it. My mom had died when I was 16. My dad had died in my training in my
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and then it was my brother and I, and it's such a story. My dad had remarried, and all my inheritance had gone to my stepmother, and it was just me, finishing my degree and taking care of myself and my brother and setting up a life for myself. So it was going to be just this physiotherapy degree that I was going to. So, but lo and behold, when I finished my degree, my brother was murdered in a hijacking. So it was just, and it was just me with this degree. And I went out there. I worked at Addington Hospital. And I did this for about 2 years. I ran an after-hour practice. So I worked from set hours, and then from 5 to about 8 at night, I'd work after hours in a private practice. And then I'd work also, if I was not busy on weekends, I worked like a madwoman at various hospitals just to drown out my sorrows, I guess, and just to make a life for myself, And so I had a lot of experience in a lot of private hospital work, government hospital. And then I went off to the UK in 2003, and I worked 2 years as a senior musculoskeletal physiotherapist at the NHS. And that was a wonderful experience, traveling, working, being trained, and lots of courses attended. So I upskilled quite nicely there. I came back to South Africa, and I worked, locumed a lot for various private hospitals, physio practices. And I remember the particular one practice that I worked for. I used to wonder, this lady, she owned this empire of a business. She had physiotherapists working at various hospitals, and I used to locum there for her. And I used to wonder, what does this lady do? She's running this empire of a business. What does she do? And one day I stood at the reception at the admin desk, and I said to the receptionist, "What does she do?" I mean, like, and then she's busy in this room locked up for like ages. And I saw in the diary just time blocked out, 3 hours, 4 hours at a time. then I used to see heavily suited men walk in with bags and
Dave,
all
that's
sorts.
interesting.
And once I saw her, then I saw her dressed quite nice and fancy without her scrubs and leaving the rooms. And then one day during the 3 hours she had booked out, I stood outside the door to listen what was going on. And she abruptly opened the door and she was like, "Oh, are you listening?" And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so inquisitive of what's going on. And she says, "Okay, why don't you come in?" So I walked in and this pile of documents on the plinth, right? And I'm like, oh gosh, I mean, physio rooms don't have desks and things, so it's like it's on the plinth. And I see this patient there and she goes, "I'm doing a medico-legal assessment." So I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
wow.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
right.
And I said, and this is this the patient's file? And she goes, "Documents, a bundle of documents." Yes, right. And it's like, I remember it was so high. I'm like, and then I said, wow. And I said, "And what do you?" I said, "So you assessing this client for like this patient for 3 hours?" And she says, "Yes, I am. I'm going through his whole life. I'm assessing him physically, and I've got to put it all in a report." And like in a nutshell, she just told me. I'm like, oh, and I said, "And that is why all these heavily suited men coming, are they lawyers? Are they lawyers? Are they advocates?" Yes. And then I said, "Oh, okay." And then I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And she says, "Well, you're welcome to sit in if you like." Right. And I'm like, and she had a team of physios, and she said, and then I felt very privileged. And I said, "Can I?" Like, and she says, "Yes." So I sat in and wow, like, and I was actually I was very interactive during it. And I don't know, it was actually not to my detriment because she thought, wow, you just got something in you for this, And I actually literally took the documents, I opened it up, and I was like, with permission, her permission, of course. And she was like,
Yeah.
okay, so that was it. Anyway, that was just that one experience. And every time she had this, I would, ask her about it and she would tell me bits and bobs. And eventually I got on with my business. I opened up my own rooms and she said to me, no, she rang me up one day and she said, "I'm immigrating." Right. And
Oh, wow.
this is going to be soon, very quick. And she said, so I was like so excited. I said, "Oh, did you leave your whole empire in terms of your physio rooms, because she was practicing of three different rooms, and I like, oh, which one did you?" And she goes, "I've left you my baby." And I said, "What? And she says, "I've left you my medico-legal baby." And
Oh, wow. That's
I'm like,
amazing.
"What?"
Oh.
And I said, "No, I can't do that." She says, "Of all of the physios that I've met have got something in you." And she says, "I'm handing over the baton to you." And I said, "Oh, no, I was absolutely, I was gobsmacked. And I said, "No," and I felt, I didn't have the confidence. And I said to her, "I can't do this." And she said to me, "It's going to be very quick. I'll give you something, a template. You can just see how it goes." Right. And she threw me in the deep end and she was leaving within that week. Right.
Wow.
So she gave me a list of, she had a huge list of attorneys. Some stayed with me and some I lost because obviously that relationship that she had, it's not
Sure.
easy to take over,
No, it's
not
not
easy
easy.
to take
No, no.
over at all.
It
I
takes
had to
time to
prove
build those
myself.
relationships. Yeah,
And I had
yeah,
to
that's
prove
right.
myself,
Yeah.
as
Uh-huh.
as a physiotherapist and but as I said to you, she gave me this template and I looked at it. It was pretty much a physiotherapy assessment. I was like, oh, this is okay. So I but I steered away from that because everybody has their own style, like you've mentioned. You're providing a template, you're providing a structure, but everybody has their own style of writing. And I don't know the legal jargons or the what is required, and that is why I find this course hugely beneficial, especially the last module that you had with us in terms of I've written 284 reports.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've been in the box 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a wealth of experience in terms of it all. And this course is sort of helping me streamline, what I
Yeah.
know,
That's right. Yeah.
cutting
Yeah.
out all that
Oh.
extras that I don't need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's
and it's actually putting labels on my thought processes. Because every time I do this daily, I always
Yeah.
tell everybody, they ask me, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a physiotherapist, but I've got 2 jobs." I said, "But I'm a physiotherapist. In the day, I see patients. I work physically
Mm.
with patients. And after hours, I sit and write reports. I
Yeah.
write reports, and I'm an expert witness. And every day I'm providing an opinion, right? But now there's labels to them, to my thought processes. Like I know I'm providing an opinion, but it's facts that are based on assumption, facts that are based on other expert opinions. But the contentious one there is facts observed by me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's right.
Because there's a thing known as inter-rater reliability. I've got my opponent that will see Mr. X and does not see what I see. It depends on your skill, your expertise, what tools you have in your box. And I could see someone with leg pain, and that someone else could say, no, I've assessed he does not have leg pain. But in my toolbox, I found his leg pain is not in his leg, it's coming from another source. But in my toolbox, I have that expertise to know which assessments to do and how to direct my assessment and come up with a more a weighted opinion or an informed opinion,
Yeah. And so it's, you see, I always think of, like, when you look at that report, especially now you're talking a very important subject you're raising now, which is that category of facts. You're quite right to raise this, which is a category of facts observed by the report writer. Okay, because now we say facts, and yes, of course, facts are objective, but there's also a subjective element to it. In other words, you've already picked up or mentioned that you may have facts, but there's a subjective element, because is the person that is going to go and investigate those facts doing the correct investigation? Are they doing a thorough investigation? Are they doing an appropriate investigation? That's the investigation. Then there's a recordal of the facts. Are those facts being correctly recorded? So it's, and I think you put it beautifully, but you've got your facts, but they are located within a process which depends on the subjective ability of the expert, and that now brings in human strengths and weaknesses. So
Absolutely.
it's a very interesting topic that you're raising. And obviously, from my perspective as an advocate, when I read expert reports, if we've got a contentious matter and I'm going to cross-examine, you'll see this next module that there's certain topics that I look at, and I'll give you the lowdown on what comes up. But one of the things that I check is I scrutinize these facts, and it's funny, exactly what you're saying. The advocate will look at objective facts, but has the process around those facts been properly followed?
Exactly. Yeah. So hence I've been in the box, because of
Yeah, well,
these
I was interested to hear
kind
that
of
4 times. That's
yes,
quite some experience, eh? You've got quite a
yes,
bit. You're going to find the next module very, very interesting. I said to one of the other interviewees that it's fine just talking about it off paper. If you haven't ever been there, you will be prepared, no doubt. But if you've even been through that process once, you'll find this next week will be tremendously beneficial, because no one can ever just explain to you the sort of the red hot heat of the courtroom and the pressure and that process until you've lived it, that experience yourself. I'm sure you'll agree, having done it 4 times. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I remember them very clearly, all four of my times,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
the three of them went beautifully. The last one didn't
Well, it's a
go.
good ratio, all right? If you can get 75% ratio, that's a win ratio. Okay.
Yes. And the most challenging one was being cross-examined by an advocate that had he had a double degree, a medical degree.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I was like, oh my word, I did not sleep the night before, and this went on for 3 days. I was in the box for three
You were in
days.
the
I
box
mean,
for
like,
3 days. Whoa.
yeah. So, but it went very well, and that was one of my accomplishments, and I
Yeah,
felt so
that is an
empowered after
accomplishment.
that, and I felt really good after
100%. 100%. You get a high from the courtroom experience. If you're successful in court, it puts you on a particular high. I don't know, it's endorphins, or I don't know, somebody can
that.
explain it to
Yes,
me. One of the
yes,
neurosurgeons can explain it to me. But
yes,
you get a litigation high, if you're successful, because I think it's all that build up of pressure in the weeks before, and you said the 3 days before, and then you get into that witness box. Now you've got 3 days of evidence, and it goes well. When you leave that stand, you're on, and it's gone well. You're like floating. It's an unbelievable feeling.
And I must say that compared to the medical legal world is a lonely road, when it comes to, it's
Yeah,
just you, your
yeah.
patient, and then we engage with the advocates, just for
Mm,
pre-trials, etc., if they need
mm,
something from you.
mm,
But
mm.
other than that, it's like if I speak to my colleagues and even uh, colleagues that are longer in the medical legal field, they were like,
Mm.
wow, 4 times in that short time,
Yeah,
short,
yeah, 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 yeah. It
and
actually shows that you're
so
getting quite good quality work because if you see now, I don't know, and I know the process, but I can say to you, what happens now again from advocates' point of view, you start and your attorneys, it's more your attorneys, but I'll give them feedback, but the attorneys really they'll start figuring out who the experts are that they know they can put in the firing line.
mm,
You see that they're going to stand, that they're going to be successful. Now you've already told me 3 out of 4 were successful. It's a
mm,
very high success rate. So now that's correlating exactly with what you're saying now, is that you've had like a high frequency of getting in the witness box, which tells me that you're very competent because you're obviously getting proper litigious matters where they need a good physio. You see that's what that picture immediately, just because I've been doing it for so long, immediately it verifies a lot of sort of immediate input and whatever. So I'm already locating you within the spectrum. you, you,
yeah,
to
yeah.
be honest,
And
yeah.
I always want the action because I'm like, oh no, not another report. But when it comes to that, I really get excited,
I'm
And
telling you.
they're like, be on. We may need you next week. I'm like, oh yes, please. Like if it's not, but then when it doesn't
Yeah,
come, I'm
because they
like,
put you on
okay, right.
notice. I know, and then it's normally, I mean, I would say about 80 or 90% of these things, like nothing happens. But
Yeah.
then it's the one where you've really called to the firing line. We had one last week where, we had to call the expert and at short notice, and he had to be there, and we were scrambling, and it was like because we wanted to pressurize the other side, and we were actually very successful in that matter. But it was that sort of thing where at the 11th hour now we have to press get and then from our point of view, maybe this will help you guys, but as the legal team, you see, because we settle a lot of them, the attorney will say you're on standby. Now, what happened in that case, then we were trying to pressurize them for settlement, and they were trying to get an adjournment. So we said to the judge, "We'll have the judge wanted to start." So she said, when will you have your first witness available?" I said, "My first witness will be here within half an hour, Judge." I had to say that because otherwise they were going to close the door and they wouldn't allocate that matter to a trial judge. So I had to get my first. Now I've given my undertaking as a professional. If that witness isn't there within half an hour, and this is to the judge president, I look bad, and next time I give her an assurance, she's not prepared to accept it.
Yes.
But the opposite happens with me. I always build with the judge. If I give them an undertaking, you follow through, then they learn to trust you as an advocate. Then you get what you call the ear of the court. In other words, the court now regards you. Advocates will have it. Certain experts have it as well. And once you've got
Mm,
the ear of the court, they listen to you, they trust you. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys, get that message through. So you
mm,
guys build a reputation, case by case, experience by experience, of getting the ear of the court. And then so we had to get our first witness there. When we got our first witness there, and he was all flustered and called out but when he arrived, we settled. Didn't even have to get in the witness box. We just had to get him there. You
yeah.
see, that
Mm,
happens often.
mm,
So
mm,
it's to exert pressure during the negotiation process, because if
mm.
your witness isn't there, the defendant feels, well, they can't run. Let's check, can they actually run? The moment your witness walks through the door, now they're under pressure because you've got your first witness. You're obviously ready to start. It puts pressure on the negotiation process, and the next thing we
Yes.
negotiate it very nicely.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're heading towards the end of our time, Surekha. It's been a real pleasure. I say to everyone, I just really so thoroughly enjoy these interviews.
Mm.
I feel I've got such an insight now into you as a professional. As I say, your professional abilities have come through to me. I can see that you're highly competent, highly capable because of the track record you've given me, but you've also come across professionally. But I think just if I can say that first section where you gave us something of your struggles and what you've been through to get to your professional status. The only thing that I didn't agree with you in your interview is I think you said you've just got a physiotherapy degree. And I just want to tell you that can I tell you from our perspective, physios are so critical in this work. It is critical to get a good physio. For the reasons you've expressed, I can tell you sometimes those physios are far more important from a medico-legal perspective than the orthopedic surgeon, because the orthopod's report is short, it's functional, it's kind of like very physical. The physio has got a lot more to do with the actual functioning, with the outcome diagnosis. What is this patient capable of doing? So please, that's the only thing. And if I hear your story, I've just got the deepest admiration and professional respect for what you've managed to achieve.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoy doing what I do, but the reason for me attending this course is really to be better,
Yeah,
and strive to be better. I've had many attorneys say to me, you have a very thorough, comprehensive report.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they do comparison with the opposition. They go, oh my, this is really, really comprehensive. And that comes from my experience. As I said, 25 years of clinical experience,
Yeah.
you can't replace that. I use
No,
that I use that a lot in the box, my experience,
100%,
if
100%.
I am, especially when it comes to the medical litigation matters and the CP management, my diary is full, 90–80% full of these children. Every day I'm treating them. Every day I touch them. I've seen them
Yeah, you
from
see,
2
that's
years
right.
of age going through adolescence, through the various lifespans. So I can comment in the box about
Yeah,
what they would need at each stage. But
yeah,
the reason for this course is because I want to be better, and I want to to be to be able to persuade the court,
100%,
so that justice can be served for my
100%.
patient, in terms of the expertise that I bring forward and what that client would need, for the patient would need for the rest of their lives. It's a once-off rule, very difficult to do, but that only comes with experience. If you see someone through their lifespan and physically treating them, then you're going to write good reports. Then you're going to be able
Yeah,
to get that
absolutely
kind
right.
of report.
Absolutely spot on, 100%, and I couldn't agree with you more. Look, there's no substitute for experience, as I've said, but even those that are starting out their first day or week, if they get their foundations right, if they get their sort of like their theoretical work up to scratch, then they start off on that journey, and one is always learning, and there will be appropriate work for them, and they will build and build and build. But as you get to like your higher levels, now you've got considerable experience. Now you've got the confidence, the ability, you can draw on that clinical experience, you can draw on the medico-legal experience, and so you start getting a complete picture. But it's that practical application, which I so agree with you about. It's that practical on a daily basis, working with those patients, and then combined with a proper professional ethic, with an understanding of what you're supposed to be doing. And that's why all of the people that take this course, I really, I always, to me, that's such a sign of a truly competent professional. Just the fact that they are investing time, energy, and money into, let's upgrade my skills, which I think it couldn't be better spent, honestly. But anyway, listen, it's been lovely chatting to you and meeting you and putting a name to a face. And yeah, we will have interactions now during the rest of the course, and I'm sure in future as well. Surekha, lovely meeting you. Where are
Thank
you
you.
practicing from, by the way?
I am practicing in Durban North.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to physio. So I don't I but what comes my way is a lot of ped neurology.
Mm.
But my toolbox is this wide. So that's why
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can comment holistically on somebody, because
Yeah,
I can do respiratory neurology, musculoskeletal. So that's what I enjoy about the diversity of the profession. So yeah.
excellent. Well, thank you so much. A really
Thank
enjoyable
you.
interview,
Thank
and
you.
congratulations. And we will be in contact soon. Cheers then.
Thank you.
Righto.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.